Welcome to Lux Mentis. Today, we explore reason and faith.
What makes you, you? I mean, what is it that separates you from everyone else, even though we all share a common human nature? This isn't just a late-night thought. It's one of the biggest questions in philosophy, a concept called individuation. It's the puzzle of how a general idea, like humanity, becomes a concrete, unique person, like you or me. Think about it. We all have the same basic blueprint, right? We're all part of the human species. But you are not just a generic copy. You are a specific, unrepeatable individual. So, what's the secret ingredient? For centuries, thinkers have wrestled with this. Is it our physical body, our matter, that makes us distinct? This idea, called hylomorphism, suggests that reality is a combination of matter and form. Our form is our human nature, and our matter is the physical stuff we're made of. This seems straightforward at first. My body is here, your body is there. Simple. But what happens when we think about our identity over time? The cells in your body are constantly being replaced. The matter that makes you up today is not the same matter from 7 years ago. So if your physical stuff is always changing, how do you remain the same person? If matter alone is what makes you an individual, wouldn't you become a different individual every time your cells are replaced? It seems matter isn't the whole story. This leads us to a fascinating idea, the soul. In this philosophical framework, the human soul isn't just some vague life force. It's considered the form of the body. But it's a special kind of form. Unlike the form of a rock or a tree, the human soul is believed to be a subsistent form. This means it has its own existence and does not entirely depend on the body to be what it is. It's the core principle of our being, our intellect, and our will. This is where the concept gets really profound. If the soul is a subsistent form, it could potentially continue to exist even after the body, our matter, dissolves. The persistence of your personal identity, your memories, your consciousness, your very uses beyond your physical components, points towards something more than just a collection of atoms. It suggests that your individuality is anchored in this soul, which isn't just a product of matter, but the organizing principle of your entire being. This idea of a unique, enduring soul provides a powerful explanation for our deep-seated sense of self. It explains why you feel like the same person who went to elementary school, even though your body is completely different. Your individuality isn't just skin deep, it's soul deep. Let's zoom out even further. This whole system of forms and matter, of species and individuals, seems incredibly organized. How did life even begin from non-life? A problem known as abiogenesis. And once life started, how did it maintain such stable forms over millions of years? Why do cats always give birth to cats, and oak trees always produce acorns that grow into other oak trees? The consistency and stability of these specific forms across nature is remarkable. It's not chaotic, it's ordered. This leads some philosophers to see this not as random chance, but as evidence of a grand design, a cosmic plan. It points towards an ordering intelligence, a logos that intentionally designed the universe with purpose and structure. From the smallest particle to the most complex being, there's an underlying logic, a teleology, that gives everything its nature and its place. So the question, what makes you, you, opens up a universe of thought. It takes us from our own physical bodies to the nature of the soul, and even to the ultimate question of cosmic design. Your unique existence isn't just a biological accident. It could be a meaningful part of a much larger, purposeful reality.
Have you ever wondered what makes you you? Not just your personality or memories, but what makes you a distinct individual thing in the universe? It sounds simple, but it's a question that has puzzled philosophers for centuries. Today, we're diving into one of the most influential answers from the great medieval thinker Thomas Aquinas, and exploring his theory of individuation. So, how do we tell one thing from another? Let's take two identical coffee mugs. They're made of the same material, have the same shape, same color, same design. What makes them two distinct mugs and not just one? Aquinas would say the answer lies in a concept called hylomorphism, which he inherited from Aristotle. Hylomorphism states that every physical thing is a composite of two principles, matter and form. Think of it like this. The form is the blueprint or the essence of a thing. It's what makes a thing the kind of thing it is. For our mugs, the substantial form is mugness, the shape, the function. The design that makes it a mug and not a plate or a bowl. This form is universal. The idea of a mug can be shared by countless mugs. So, if the form is universal, what makes each individual mug unique? This is where the other half of hylomorphism comes in, matter. But not just any matter. Aquinas talks about prime matter. This isn't the ceramic or clay you can touch. Prime matter is pure potentiality, formless and indeterminate stuff that underlies everything. It's the ultimate cosmic Play-Doh, waiting to be shaped. Okay, now, for a specific individual thing to exist. That universal form needs to be united with a particular chunk of this prime matter. Aquinas argues that matter is the principle of individuation. It's the matter, designated by quantity, meaning it exists in a particular place at a particular time that receives the form, and makes it this specific mug right here, and not that specific mug over there. Even if they are identical in every other way, they occupy different portions of matter in space. This is matter signed by quantity. It's what takes the universal blueprint of mug and makes it a concrete singular reality. This idea is powerful, but it's not without its challenges. Later philosophers like Duns Scotus weren't entirely convinced. Scotus asked, what about non-physical things, like angels? They don't have matter, so how can they be individuals? He proposed that each individual thing has a unique property, a Haecceity or Thisness, that makes it uniquely itself, independent of matter. This Haecceity is an intrinsic positive feature that makes this specific angel asterisk this asterisk angel, and Socrates this Socrates. So, what about us? What makes you a unique human being? For Aquinas, it's the same principle. The universal form of humanity, our rational souls, individuated by the matter it informs, which is our body. Your soul is uniquely yours because it's the form of asterisk, your asterisk-specific body. This creates a deep connection between our soul and our physical existence. We are not just ghosts in a machine. We are an integrated unity of body and soul. The very matter that makes up your body is what makes your soul, and therefore you, this particular individual. It's a mind-bending concept, but it gets to the heart of what it means to be a singular being in a world of shared essences. From coffee mugs to human beings. The quest to understand individuality continues to be one of philosophy's most fascinating journeys. What do you think? Is it matter that makes us unique? Or is there something else, a thisness, that defines us?
Have you ever wondered what makes you, you? And what happens to that you after you die? Let's explore a fascinating idea from philosophy. First, consider death. If our individuality came only from our physical bodies, what would happen when the soul separates from the body? Logically, the soul would lose what makes it unique. It would either dissolve into some universal consciousness or simply vanish. But many philosophical and theological traditions say otherwise. They believe that even after death, the soul of Peter remains the soul of Peter, and the soul of Paul remains the soul of Paul. This suggests our souls are already individual, even while connected to our bodies. It's like the soul gets a unique stamp from the body it was in, and it carries that stamp forever. It's not just a blank slate. It has a built-in relationship to its specific body, which is what keeps our personal identity intact, waiting for a future reunion. Now, think about your own experience of being a self. You've gone through so many changes, right? You've grown, maybe you've had injuries, your cells have been replaced, and your memories have evolved. Yet, through all of it, you feel like the same person. You know the you from 10 years ago is the same you today. If we were just a collection of physical parts, like a Lego castle, changing any piece would change what we are. How could we be held responsible for our past actions if we were not the same person who did them? This continuous sense of self, this unwavering I, points to something beyond just our physical parts. This points to a single, unifying principle that holds all our experiences and physical changes together. This principle is what we call the soul. Because the soul isn't made of physical parts, it can't break down or decay like the body can. This is the foundation for the idea of its immortality. Finally, think about big ideas. We can grasp universal concepts like mathematical truths or timeless moral principles. These ideas aren't tied to any specific time or place. Our ability to think about these eternal truths suggests that the part of us doing the thinking, our soul, must also have a nature that goes beyond the limits of the physical, temporary world. It participates in something timeless. So, from the mystery of our identity after death to the simple, everyday feeling of being yourself, the evidence points to a spiritual soul and individual, enduring core of our being.
The study of individuation inevitably leads to the question of origins. If life emerged spontaneously through a purely random process of abiogenesis, as proposed by certain materialist currents, we would face an insurmountable ontological difficulty, the absence of a reason for the existence of species. Chance, by definition, tends toward dispersion and disorder. If life were the result of random molecular collisions, we would observe a chaotic aggregate of unique individuals with no formal relationship to one another, an infinite gradation of amorphous forms without defined boundaries. Instead, biological reality presents us with constant forms or species characterized by fixed internal structures and clear teleologies. The fact that matter organizes itself into specific types, the logos of the species, indicates that matter does not inform itself by accident, but responds to a prior ordering principle. The existence of species with distinct individuals sharing a common nature is evidence of intentional design. Aristotle noted that man begets man, highlighting the fixity of the substantial form through reproduction. This stability cannot be explained merely by the natural selection of random variations, as selection acts on what already exists but does not account for the genesis of irreducible formal structures. Hylomorphism proposes that prime matter is appetite for form. It tends toward being informed, but does not possess the blueprint for that information. The precision with which matter is informed in biological systems points toward an intelligence that supplies the form. Without this principle, matter would remain in a state of pure potentiality, incapable of reaching the complexity required for life or consciousness. The central challenge to materialism is, why is matter informed? If the universe were only mass and energy in motion, the organization of matter into living beings with internal purposes would be a statistical impossibility. Hylomorphism responds that matter is the subject capable of receiving form, but the form itself is a reflection of divine ideas communicated to creation. Each species represents a word of the logos. Individuation allows the infinite richness of a specific form to manifest across multiple instances, each offering a unique perspective of being. In the human case, individuation reaches its highest degree, as each soul is created directly by God for eternal existence. While contemporary science describes mechanisms of adaptation microevolution, these processes occur within an existing formal framework. The lack of missing links showing a fluid, chaotic transition between species in the fossil record reinforces the idea that substantial form is a discrete unit that cannot be fragmented by chance. The complexity of organs like the eye or systems like the bacterial flagellum suggests that parts only gain meaning in relation to the whole final cause. This coordination toward an end is the very definition of intelligence. If matter were alone, its collisions would produce chemical noise, not the organized symphony of a biological species.
Individuation in the human being is a testament to a deep harmony between the material and the spiritual. A human is not an individual solely by the body, nor a person solely by the soul. It is the union of both that constitutes their concrete reality. However, it is the spiritual nature of the soul that grants this individuality a dimension of eternity. The persistence of the individual after biological death refutes any materialist reduction of the human person. If matter were the only principle of individuation, death would be the absolute end. Because the individual remains, it is evident that their form, the soul, possesses its own individual identity that survives separation. This anemic individuality is the basis for the hope of resurrection and the guarantee that every human being is unique before their creator. Finally, the structure of the biological world, organized into species and intelligible forms, serves as a teleological sign toward God. Matter cannot give itself form. The information found in DNA and the architecture of living beings is the result of intentional design. Individuation is ultimately the means by which God multiplies His image in creation, calling each individual by name and endowing them with a soul that is, in itself, proof of His existence.